Okay, so we're recording now. And
came from an activity.
so what I want to do is talk about your test, because none of this is going away as we enter trigonometry. We'll still have fractions as you go into calculus. You'll have to do all of this after you've done the calculus. You'll learn how to take a derivative in calculus. And after that, then you'll have to do all the algebra to find the answer. So all of this is not going away. So I want to give you, before I even look at some of the homework, at some of the test problems, we're just going to talk about a couple of scenarios. Let's say if I have 2/3 plus 5/7. This is where I'm kind of scared a tour is going to come in and they don't realize I'm trying to make a point that I'm actually teaching you as juniors to add these two fractions, okay? But just to make my point before we go forward, what would you have to do here, Alex?
You'd have to get the denominators equal.
To add, she's got to get a common denominator. In fact, she actually has to achieve the common denominator. So what are you going to multiply this by?
Times 7. And then
Now, if you multiply that by 7.
Oh, wait, no, sorry, 4.
What?
Oh, this is a 7.
Sorry, I'm so tired right now.
Okay, there's a 3 and a 7.
Yes.
So I need to multiply this by 7. If I multiply the top by 7, what do I have to do to the bottom?
Multiply by 7.
And over here, what are you going to multiply? 3 and 3. And so now you have 14 plus 15 over 21. Neither one of these had a 3 in them, but I'm still seeing people do some canceling that's not, oh, that has a 3 in it. You couldn't now start to cancel 3's out of the 15 and the 21, because isn't the 15 glued to the 14?
Yes.
Okay, so that gives you 29 over 21, so we're okay on that. All right, now let's compare that to this. What if I have 2/3 plus, and by the way, on my other slides, I've got the faces are shrunk down, so I'm not writing on their faces, and you can really see like new material, so don't panic over that. Right now I'm just kind of talking. All of a sudden I put an equal in there. I have a whole different life now, okay? I'm not just trying to add two fractions together. I have the luxury of a seesaw now, and you can make your life easier, and most of you did do what I'm about to do. So I don't actually have to get my common denominator, I just have to know what it is. I'd love to get rid of the fractions in one fell swoop, just collapse them right away. But this happened maybe on the last page. Some people didn't really take care of that 4 on the last page. There was a 2, well, I'll do that problem
For the
again.
first one or the second one?
First one on the last page. Okay, but anyway, what is your common denominator here?
84.
84. You need a 3 and a 7 and a 4, okay? So, but I don't have to get the common denominator. I can just multiply by the common denominator. Do y'all see what I mean? I don't have to don't go through all that trouble. Now when you distribute, you reduce as you go. What is that? 3 goes into 84, 28 times, I think, is that right? 28 times 3.
Yeah, that should be right.
Okay. So 3 goes in 84 28 times, and then I still have to say times 2. Here, 7 goes into 84 12 times, and that's still times 5. And over here, 4 goes into 84 21 times, and then that's easy go. Oh, I'm sorry. I should have put an X in there somewhere. Really good. Tour didn't come by because those two don't even add up to 7 4s. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I should have put an X in there somewhere. Those two are not even 7 4s, okay? But do y'all see the point of, sometimes you have to, if you just have a statement, you have to multiply top and bottom. If you have an equation, just put it on both sides and let it all collapse down. Every question on the test was 4 points. And so you can look and see if I could find some partial credit to give you, because I actively looked for it. I want to talk about number, and in fact I didn't, I don't think I counted all through this on number
7, 9, or
9. Number 9, not number 9. Number 9 I would have counted off if we didn't reduce it. I'm going to get you to read me number 10, Bryn. So
Okay,
this is
number 10 is b minus 3.
Wait, hang on, let me get on a slide that I can write on. Okay, and again, this is not going away, so we've got to make sure we're good at this. All right, b minus 3.
Over b squared minus 9
Okay.
plus x squared over,
What?
I'm sorry, plus b plus 3 over b squared plus 6b plus 9.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Okay, now, some people did it the long way, truth be told, if I'm honest with you. I even did it the long way, which is a bit embarrassing, so some of you did it the short way, okay? And I should have known better, because I've always encouraged you to reduce before you start the problem if you can. If you did it the long way, you would have known this was b plus 3, b minus 3. That's a minus. And this one was b plus 3, b plus 3. Okay? So I have two b plus 3s here and one b minus 3 there, so I need some of all of that. So this one needs a what?
b plus 3.
Right?
And the other
So
one needs
Bryn, I've got to do that top and bottom. And this one needs a b minus 3, which is not oriented over there, so we are kind of used to that. So this one needed a b minus 3. All right, does that make sense to everybody so far? Okay. So if you carefully distribute the top, you get b squared, those cancel out, minus 9, plus b squared, these cancel out, minus 9. And I've encouraged you not to multiply the bottom out because it might cancel, right? That's 2b squared minus 9, minus 18, over all of that stuff that I'm really tired
b
of
plus
writing.
3, b plus 3, b minus 3.
But you could write it as
And we got
b
full
plus
credit if
3
we wrote
squared. Now, some people left it like that, and really accidentally on the first couple I graded, I for some reason talking to them didn't count off, so I just sort of stayed with that, okay? But that's not completely reduced, and a few people have the right answer, 2 over b plus 3. That's correct, it's just not reduced. It's like giving me 8/4. Because what can you factor out of the top? 2. So if we factor out a 2, that gives me b squared. Let me write it down here. If you factor out a 2, that gives you b squared minus 9 over b plus 3, b minus 3, b plus 3, b minus 3.
Oh!
And so you have 2 times b plus 3, b minus 3, over b plus 3, b plus 3, b minus 3.
And then
So this cancels because it's all multiplied, and my final answer is 2 over b plus 3. So since I didn't count off on that one because so many people had gone that long route, I don't. If something's happening to your brains, it happened on another problem too. Where if you have a number in front of the squared on a little short one, some people just kind of bailed out on that and didn't do it. Like for instance, I'll look at the exact problem in a minute. But if I have 25x squared minus 16. That's a difference of squares. It doesn't just have to say x squared minus 16. Okay, we'll get to that, thanks. That one would be 2x plus 4, 2x minus 4. Not 2, I'm sorry, what? 25x squared? 5x. I don't know where I got the 2 from. Okay, these are 5s. Wouldn't that give me 25x squared?
Yes.
That would give me a negative and a positive 20. Do y'all see this difference of squares? So there's one that was 9x squared minus 16. And I wrote on everybody's paper that didn't factor that. That was 3x plus 4, 3x minus 4. I wasn't trying to be tricky. I felt like it made that difference of squares.
No, I wasn't
Okay,
doing
girls,
that.
back to this. Look. Look, watch. Again, I'm doing this for impact. Just to really make a huge point to you of the best way to work a problem as we go forward. Do y'all see this itty bitty little answer? I have some students that worked it a much better way. And I would say your name if I can remember who all did it. But a few people did this. Will you read it to me again, Bryn? Number
Yeah.
10?
It was b minus 3 over b squared minus 9 plus b plus 3 over b squared plus 6b plus 9.
I should have thought, and you should have thought, to do what I suggest is check and see if it can be reduced ahead of time. And oh my gosh, our life would have been so much easier. Those of you that did it, your life was lots easier. Did you see what I was doing while Brennan was reading me the problem? I was factoring the bottom as I went, which we all factored the bottom anyway. It's funny that some of us didn't see this. The b minus 3's cancel out, and that leaves me a 1 on the top, 1 over b plus 3. Here the b plus 3's cancel out, and I have another 1 over b plus 3. So, how many 1 over b plus 3's do I have? 2 over b plus 3. So, why would I spend time to do that after a test? It's because this isn't going away for the next couple of years of your life and maybe beyond that. So we should always, I hope that made an impression on you, like, oh my gosh, I wish I'd reduced. And look how short the problem is. So try to reduce as you go. Okay? All right. So any other specific questions on the test?
My back really hurts.
It's okay.
Okay. So now we're going to move on. You can
Sitting
move.
right in front of me.
I see anything.
Can you see the board?
I'm just not like
Okay.
Brand.
I couldn't see from there. I haven't seen the board.
Yeah, but go in between them.
Oh,
Right in front of me.
behind Kate. If somebody needs to leave, y'all scooch over and give her some minutes.
Well, that's fine.
I'll just come here. I'll sit here.
Okay, so now I think everybody's okay.
Yes.
All right. So now new material, whatever you do when I start teaching new material. Okay, I really meant to put this on the last test. I think I told you I forgot to teach you something called complex fractions. Like I just forgot. I could have easily squeezed it in a few minutes. But it's another thing that can happen with fractions. What all can happen with fractions is you can multiply 2 fractions, you can divide 2 fractions, you can add 2 fractions, you can put those away, and you can solve equations with fractions in them. Okay, these are all called rational equations, but this is like a rational equation on steroids. It's going to be what's called a complex fraction. Girls, it's going to have fractions inside my fractions.
Oh, I don't
Okay.
know that.
Oh.
So if I have 3 over x plus 1 minus 5 over 7 over x
Oh.
minus 2 plus 4. Let's
I
say
see
if
this
I
stuff
have
on my
that.
ACT and it really makes it.
We're going to make your life a lot easier for the ACT then, right?
I'm taking it on
I failed
Saturday.
that SAT as well, and I'm like,
I'll show you an easy way to do it. The first way I do it, I would suggest if you're taking notes not to write down. It's going to be sort of, the first way I do it, I would say don't write it down. You will even have ACT and SAT tutors that show you to do this way that I'm doing. But I'm going to show you a faster way. Hopefully your tutor shows you the faster way, okay? When you're doing some math with a tutor, they're targeting it to standardized testing. I also have done tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of ACT and SAT workshops. I used to be part of a company in Mississippi and Tennessee where we did workshops on weekends for students. I'm only saying that, so I don't think that's very impressive anyway, but I'm only saying that because I target a lot of my teaching towards standardized tests anyway. Like I'm always telling you like, oh, this could be on, you'll hear me say, this could be on ACT and stuff. I'm targeting it for the most efficient, fastest way to get to the problem, okay? Anya tried this on the test, and I even had a hard time with it too, but it would have worked if I could add 2 numbers correctly. But she had the bright idea, it's a great standardized test taking skill. Girls, on standardized tests, they just want to know if you can think. ACT cares more about your algebraic computations. SAT cares more if you think outside the box. That's why if you're really a very straightforward person, the ACT is probably better for you. If you're the one that was always sitting in class, can I do it this way? Can I do it this way? Can I do it this way? You need to take the SAT. Because whenever the teacher was going, no, don't do it that way, do it my way, that's exactly what you probably need to be doing on the SAT. If you sit there watching somebody work a problem out going, I've known the answer for 5 minutes because you figured it out a different way, SAT is kind of targeted toward that. So anyway, Anya had the idea, test taking skill is on one of the harder problems that took everybody like a long time to do. She just was missing a sign somewhere or something. Sorry, I hope you don't mind me using it as an example. She thought, I'm just going to try to fill in a number like here. She would be wise enough not to fill in 2 because that would give her 0 on the bottom. But she filled in, say, 3. and she gets a number here, and then she goes to her answer choices and starts to fill in 3, she probably could figure out which one it is. Because if she fills in 3 here, she'll get a bunch of numbers. And if she fills in 3 into the answer choices, she'll get a bunch of numbers. Always just make it a convenient number. Do something small. So that's a good idea. That's not what I'm going to teach you today, though. Okay? All right, so back on track. The long way to work this problem that is not advisable. In fact, my teacher probably taught me to work this problem this way. I'm not quite sure. I first thought, okay, first of all, in calculus, I even allow students, and also read for the College Board, so I grade AP Cal exams in the summer. So I'm actually grading them, giving them scores and stuff. So we allow for unreduced answers. Like you could leave it 24/8, because we could go, well, you know what, that's right. It's not wrong. But we do not allow complex fractions where you have fractions inside of a fraction. The reason we don't allow it, we also don't want decimals in a fraction. Like, go in and make up your mind is what we're saying, okay? It can be so misleading, like this. I think we talked about this in the last class. I think I introduced this maybe at the end. 8 divided by 1/2, I feel like that should be small. But if you actually say 8 divided by 1/2, what would you do to actually work that problem?
Multiply by 2.
You multiply by the reciprocal, and you would say 8 times 2, and you would get 16. So do you see how misleading it is to have something like a decimal inside of a fraction? You can't even tell what the number is. Whereas if I give you a decimal or a fraction, you've got a really good handle on it. So that's called a complex fraction when you technically isn't that really having a fraction in a fraction. Both of those are 16. All right, so if you have a decimal as part of your fraction, don't give it to me. Go in and divide it out on your calculator. Either give me a decimal or give me a fraction, okay? Why is this 16? Why is 8 divided by 1/2 16?
Because you're dividing the 8 into halves.
Right. So if I had 8 candy bars and I cut them all in half, I would have 16 pieces to give out to people. Do you see what she's saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's nice, it makes sense. All right, so anyway, we are not allowed to have what are called complex fractions. Again, you'll see this in calculus. So, does anybody else have an Apple Watch? Mine just told me to breathe. I want to go, shut up.
You're like, thank you, I wasn't talking about it.
That's
what it is.
I think I
My
am.
problems are solved now.
I think I am breathing. Okay. So anyway, the long way to do this is to go, okay, I know I can't have a fraction inside a fraction. You will see, I know some of you may miss class, and instead of watching the video, you might look at Khan Academy, you might get somebody to help you in the math department or whatever. Many times they would tell you, well, let's just get a common denominator on the top. And let's get a common denominator on the bottom. All right, do y'all see what I'm doing? Okay. And then on the top, my common denominator is x plus 1. And I have 3. I have to be careful with this minus sign. It caught some people on the test. That's minus 5x. That's actually minus 5. And that's just the numerator. The denominator is both over x minus 2. And on top of that denominator, I have 7, and I have plus 4x minus 8. I hope this makes sense to you. It's not the way I'm going to recommend you work the problem. So now I have negative 5x minus 2 over x plus 1 divided by 4x minus 1 over x minus 2. And now you have a fraction divided by a fraction. Now I couldn't do this next step until right this minute. You know, if you have a fraction divided by a fraction, you keep, change, flip, you multiply by the reciprocal, okay? But right now I can't even do that. Y'all see all those pluses and minus signs I had to deal with first? I didn't even know what's on the bottom. I couldn't multiply by the reciprocal when it was just like that. All right, so there's no way to flip over something like 1/3 plus 7 or something. So now I've got a fraction, a consolidated fraction in the top. And it's divided by that, so you see I'm gonna multiply by this,
Oh.
and then go on and get my answer, okay? And I would hope something reduces, but the one I made up to start class with does not reduce. So, in calculus, you probably could even leave it like that, because we know you're capable of doing FOIL. If it's multiple choice, you probably have to do FOIL, distribute, so that you can find your answer choice, okay? But I'm gonna show you a much easier way.
Just keep change flip basically, right?
Yes, but I'm gonna show you an easier way, okay? Oh, by the way, it's very much like if I have an equation. If I have an equation, you've got the choice to go through the treacherous, I'm gonna get common denominators everywhere, I'm gonna add up all these fractions, as opposed to what I taught you where you put something on both sides and it collapses right away. So I'm about to show you something way easier. We're gonna have a smaller side. Brilliant?
Never mind.
Okay. So, I think I'm gonna erase all this work, just because I don't wanna write it, I want you to be able to see the problem. Well, maybe I'm not, so just help me remember the problem. Let's see, it was 3 over x plus 1.
3 over x plus 1
Oh,
minus
did you
5.
write down the original problem?
3 over x plus 1 minus 5.
Okay. 3 over x plus 1 minus 5 over
7 over x minus 2.
Plus 4.
plus 4, thanks. Okay, what I want you to do is actually think of your common denominator, or at least you'll see as time goes on. I want to think of what I want to get rid of. Sometimes you don't want to get rid of both denominators, but you don't have to worry about that yet. I want to get rid of the x plus 1 and the x plus 2.
Can you just multiply it to the outside?
Okay, now, I could do this. I could say I'm going to multiply by both of those things, which may be what Bren is alluding to. But if I do it to the top, I also have to do it to the bottom, right? It's very similar when I do it on both sides of an equation, okay? So I'm not trying to add or subtract anything right now. I've got one fraction that's a big, huge mess. So now I'm going to multiply by that. You've got to be careful to kind of do it in your head. What cancels when I go this way? The x plus 1, and what do I have left? 3 times x minus 2 minus 5 times x plus 1, x minus 2.
This is like a solid triangle.
And yes, exactly. And that gives me a 7 times what? X plus 1 plus 4 times x plus 1 times x minus 2. That was what I was about to ask y'all. I cannot cancel those, okay? Because this is still in the works. That's really not an x plus 1 and an x minus 2. This is your denominator.
But then you can
So you
factor it
can't,
out.
that'd be like doing this, by the way. 5 minus 3 over 4 plus 3. You can't cancel out those 3's. The answer to that is not 5/4, okay? It's definitely 2 sevenths. But I kept confusing that stuff too as a student, so I started trying to figure it out by myself at home. That's why I show my students. I'm like, I don't know why I can't do that. But it helps me to see that, okay? Remember, these plus and minus signs are super glued. All of this is super glued together, okay?
But
Ava?
did you cancel out in the beginning part of it? You canceled out like the x minus 2 with the x minus 2 and you were
Yes, because
multiplying, right?
these are multiplied. When that's multiplied,
Yeah, you did
that's all.
cancel-
This times that times that.
Okay.
So it's multiplied, okay?
Yeah, so
But
the
once I
x
have it
but
all
the x-
spread out, I can't cancel things unless it's everywhere.
Yeah, but in the beginning you did
I
cancel
can
out x
al-
minus 2 and x minus 2.
Yeah, because I'm
Okay.
multiplying, I'm distributing. I also did it to this one, yes. I can almost cancel out an x minus 2, can I? Almost.
Almost.
But everybody doesn't have an x minus 2. This person doesn't right here. Did y'all see that? Okay. All right, so now let's go
Wait, so is
forward.
the final answer 5 over 4?
Oh, I'm sorry, no. I was showing Anya something over here. That wasn't on this problem. She was asking if I could cancel these things
Yeah,
out.
you can.
Okay. So now, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to do the multiplication, but at this point, we're okay. Do y'all see what I mean? Short of making some careless algebra or arithmetic mistake, that's not difficult, okay? So that gives me 3x minus 6 minus, this is x squared, I'm doing this together, x squared minus x minus 2. So this is minus 5x squared plus 5x plus 10. On the bottom, I have 7x plus 7. This is x squared minus x minus 2. I just did FOIL. So this is plus 4x squared minus 4x minus 8. At this point, I'm just trying to be careful with something that's easy for me, or for you. It's not just for me. All right, so now, I don't know why it won't let me go further than that. I want to go further than that. I need more room. Let's see. All right, so this is what we have on the end of the last slide. So now I'm going to add like terms. And so I have negative 5x squared plus 8x plus 4. On the bottom I have 4x squared plus 3x minus 1. Now, do you think I would let you be through with this?
No.
But it's still just algebra 1.
Oh, it's
We're gonna factor.
Yeah, so you factor and see if something will cancel. However, I want to go back to that first slide that was so ugly, where I had all of this work going on right here. I ended up with this. Oops. I don't know what just happened. I think it copied the whole slide. That's weird. I don't know where that came from because I'm holding the pen right here in my hand. Did y'all see that? I got a Becky World story about that. I'll tell you in just a minute. Becky World is like super weird things happen to me, just in case you don't know. Oh man, they're so weird.
Coincidence.
Yeah, just really beyond coincidence. Let's see, it's just super freaky.
I counted my steps
Oh,
in
yeah.
the classroom, and when I got here, I said, guess how many steps it took to get to the classroom? And Dakota said 172,
And that
it
was
was
it?
173.
Okay, that's
So
weird.
close.
That kind of thing,
Why
yeah.
did you count?
And then also, Sandy and I both had dreams on the same night that we got D minuses on history tests, and D minuses don't even exist, and it was the same subject.
That's right, there are no D minuses. I had to look that up the other day.
Oh.
When I was writing an academic update for somebody.
That's
Let's see.
That's fun.
I think it was algebra 2.
What, it was
That
that
class.
I don't actually remember, but I think it was algebra 2.
Yeah,
I
I
loved
Um,
algebra
surprised.
too. Algebra 2 is the best.
I'm so
I did
bad.
Algebra 2
Terrible.
was the
I
best.
hated algebra.
Oh my gosh,
Algebra
Sarah,
2,
do-
I
Wait,
you
wait,
remember
wait. I want to
project?
finish this problem though, so it doesn't go on and on forever.
Yeah, same.
This is going to be 5.
Same, she gave me an academic update done.
This is going to be negative 5x squared. That's negative 10, and I can't even read that. Oh, I'm sorry. That's positive 10 because a negative times a negative. And this one's minus 2. That would give me 8. Minus, or that's a negative, sorry. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. Anyway, can y'all see what I'm saying? Those are the same answer. Those are the same answer. And I kept talking about other things while I was doing that, but the second way is a whole lot easier. You don't have to actually go through the strain of getting the common denominator. Just know what your common denominator is and do it to the top and the bottom. So we're going to do another one without all that talking, but I'll tell you like my little story. Like I'll just tell you 2 Becky World incidences, but I'll add them on now that I'm sort of letting you have a window to it. It's a huge long story. Like my family's used to it. They're like, oh, that's so weird. It's so strange. But anyway, one time, they wanted Harry Potter slides, and I'm not a big Harry Potter fan. I'm sorry, I know that's like heresy. So I don't know a lot of the names. They gave me, like, the class at the time gave me the first book, and they're like, you have to read it. They gave me a hard copy, and they like autographed it, and you're gonna love it. And I'm just like, I would keep reading it, but I didn't really care. Have you ever read a book like that? And you're just like,
Every school.
yeah. But anyway, yeah. Anyway, the picture, and my students, like, we saw each other every day, and so they knew me really well because we didn't have a block schedule. They saw me every day. So we knew each other really well. Some of them I taught a couple of years. And so they were well immersed in what we call Becky World, because weird things happen all the time. So anyway, I was standing there teaching, and I was talking to somebody, and Bellatrix
Lestrange.
probably her. That was her picture right over there, and I was standing over here talking to somebody, and the whole class was like, and I turned around at the board, and from her eyes to my head, there was this red line, and I'm standing there. It kind of like just then, when I was over here, and that blue line just showed up out of, I don't know how that got there. Did y'all notice?
Scary.
Yeah.
That's so forgettable.
Yeah, they were just like, oh my gosh. I was like, I don't know how that happened, but, and not only was there a red line, it was just from her eyes to, like, it was weird. I can't explain it.
That's so
The other day I was reading a book, in fact, I'm still not finished with it. It's an interesting piece of novel, just mindless fun for me. In the book, this person either jumped or was pushed off a bridge of the Zigzag River. So I've never heard of it my whole entire life. My younger son flew to like go camping and stuff with some friends in Oregon. And I saw him post a picture on Instagram hanging out at the Zigzag River. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's the kind of thing. Like, I'm just like, whatever. Okay. So, back to complex fractions. You'll be doing some delta math on complex fractions, so we'll look at this one. And I honestly don't know how delta math's going to show you to do it. I hope they show you to do it the easy way. All right, so let's grab this. This one's going to be pretty easy. I hope delta math's not too easy, but I'll still stick with that since last time
Last year, Caroline and Dayla and Anna came on like vacation with my family because they're friends with
Were they
Nancy.
talking about Becky World?
Yeah, something happened. They're like, oh my god, we have to tell Miss Lazari.
They
This
kept
is
a
so
list
Becky.
on the trip.
I know, they're like,
Stuff
we have to
happened on
add
the
this to the
plane.
list. Okay, guys.
They got back and they're like, we can't wait to tell you.
I know.
And it was weird stuff. It was legitimately weird. Here's the bad / funny news. And Anya may be that person. But once I tell people this, things start to happen to them.
It's Grace and Katie.
It was,
Grace was talking about that.
She won't
Yeah.
stop telling me that.
Yeah.
She's obsessed with it.
Yeah, it's like,
everything she's like, this is Becky.
there was a girl named
I'm like,
Kelsey Franklin that she's like, oh no, it's happening to me. She would like scoot her desk further away from me. It's really super creepy. It's all coincidences, but it's super creepy. Like, one year, in the middle of class, I just all of a sudden started talking about Calvin Thigpen. And he was like a Rhodes Scholar, and you know, a kid that I taught that was awesome. And I was making him sound like the best thing in the world.
You
And they're
taught
like,
him?
he's not that great. A guy named Calvin Thigpen.
Oh.
You would have probably never heard of it, but anyway, they're like, so I Googled him, and all of a sudden I just went Calvin Thigpen, because how many could there be? And sure enough, a story popped up about him, but the headline was Calvin the Thigpen's house burned down, and his wife, he didn't wake up. His wife woke up and ran the kids out of the house, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then like 2 days later, I was running a marathon in another state, and I'm running, and guess who runs right by me? I'm like, Calvin, I saw your house burned down. And he went, how'd you, never mind, because he knew about like, he's like, oh, I bet, you know, it's a Becky World thing. That's your y'all okay, yeah. Hadn't seen him in 10 or 15 years.
Oh
and it was
my
fun.
god.
Yeah.
So
I
you're
don't have a Becky World.
I
Wouldn't
wanna
it be
know
so
more
funny?
stories.
Wait,
Okay.
now I'm interested. Well, I guess
I'm so intrigued.
Huh?
Now I want to have like a Becky.
Yeah, it'll happen.
It will
Yeah. Okay. To some people more than most. I'll start telling you about them, but now that you know. The creepiest one is the one about Saturn, but I'll tell you that later.
Oh, wait, I want to know.
Wait, tell us now. Tell us now.
We don't have time. I gotta do this problem.
Wait.
Okay, girls, so,
By 2.
what do you wanna get rid of?
X and 2.
2.
Okay, I really only wanna get rid of those 2's because they're the denominators of all the fractions. But sometimes, Kate, you're right. I'm gonna need to get rid of, oh, I'm sorry.
There's also an
She
X.
is totally right. Thank you, Kate. You're the only one that was right. I wanna get rid of the 2 and the X, cause there is an X on the bottom. This X, Kate wants to get rid of. So we're not gonna go through the strain of actually trying to add those together and get a common denominator. We're just gonna go, I'm gonna get rid of you, okay? So I'm gonna distribute, and you just gotta be careful now. Will the 2's cancel? And you get X times X plus 3, are y'all okay with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like if you multiply this over here, you'll lose those 2's.
Okay.
I'm not gonna do that though, cause I need it for the next distribution. Okay, and
But wouldn't you
then
end up with an X as well?
this is 2. Hang on just a second.
Okay.
What's gonna happen here?
The
2X.
So it's, would it be X to
The 2's
third?
are gonna, so it's gonna be X to the third plus 2X
Squared.
squared, okay? I cannot cancel any of these X's right now because I still have to figure out the top. So the top is X squared plus 3X plus 2. What is the bottom? What's your first rule in factoring? First rule of factoring,
Take out the common.
common, which is X squared, so that leaves me X plus 2. And so this is X plus 2, X plus 1,
Oh my.
Well, when you look
X
Funny how things
squared
work out.
times X plus 2.
And they cancel.
Oh my.
Okay, so it's X minus 1. All of it after you do that first multiplication is maybe a bit tedious, but it's not bad because in my first step, do you see I don't have all those fractions inside of fractions anymore. So now let's try to type it in and hope that the aggravating delta math will accept it.
X plus
Um,
1 over X squared, I think.
Okay, now we gotta make sure we know how to type it in. Isn't that one of the
Yes.
classic
Yes.
delta math things?
Oh.
What did I get for my answer?
X plus 1 over
X
X
plus
squared.
X squared.
Over X squared. All right, so I think if I do this,
Do it in parentheses.
okay, yeah. So I gotta do parentheses. You're right, Brand. X plus
Both of them
1.
have- oh no, just kidding.
Was it 1?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over.
Okay.
Over X squared.
X squared.
See if this works.
Ta-da!
Yes!
Okay, wait, what's the bring us that in story now?
I got 1 minute to tell
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Okay. So